Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to the video today. In this video we're going to talk about how to solve absolute value equations. So we'll start here with just talking about what absolute value is. Remember that solving absolute value equations is exactly the same as solving regular equations with one big difference. Usually instead of having one solution, we're going to have two solutions. Okay. So in our first example here, we have just basically the absolute value is equal to 5. Right, we know that when x equals 5, the absolute value of 5 will equal 5, but we also know the absolute value of negative 5 will equal 5. Right, so, for absolute value of x equal to 5, there's two solutions. X is plus or minus 5. They both work. So now when we start looking at equations here, what we want to do is we want to isolate the absolute value first, and then we want to put it in two equations, one with a negative, one with a positive solution, and solve both. So let's take a look at a couple examples here. In these first 6, so notice the absolute value is already isolated in every problem. So there's no work needed to isolate them. We can jump right into setting up two equations. One equal to the positive answer and one equal to the negative answer. And then we simply just solve both of these like you would solve any old linear equation. And lo and behold, we get our two answers of 2 and negative 6. All right, we could check those answers by putting 2 into there, or putting negative 6 into there, and we should get, if we put 2 in there, we get absolute value of 24. And if we put negative 6 in there, we get absolute value of negative 24, which are both 24. Second one, again, go ahead and split that into two equations. And as we work through each of them, we get our two solutions. And again, a real easy check by putting those two numbers in to make sure that we would get 14 or negative 14 inside the absolute value bars. Third one, absolute value is isolated, so we jump right into the solving. This first one here is not going to give us a whole number. That's okay. 44 over 8. We can reduce that to 11 halves and negative 5. Number 4, same thing. Subtract the 6 from both sides. Subtract the 6 from both sides and multiply both sides by 3 halves. And we get our answers. Number 5, once again, same thing. It is split up already. The absolute value is isolated by itself, so we can use these two equations here. Subtract 10 from both sides. And multiply both sides by negative 4/3. The second one here is not going to be a whole number there, so we can leave it as 102 over 3. Or 104 over 3. Did my math wrong there. 26 times 4 is 104. That by 3. Which is not a whole number, so we can leave our answers just like that. Now, before we take a look at number 6, if you look at these first 5 problems, one thing they did all have in common, besides having the absolute value isolated, is that they were all equal to positive answers. Well, what's different in number 6? All right, it is no longer equal to a positive answer. It's equal to a negative answer. An absolute value can never be negative. So if you see something like this, we have an absolute value to a negative answer, we know right away that there are no solutions to that problem. All right, what if the absolute value is not isolated? Here's an example. The first step would be to isolate it, just like you would normally do. So we would either add or subtract or divide or multiply, whatever, until this is by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is add 3 to both sides. Now this looks exactly like the last slide. We split this into our 2 equations. And we solve. And just like before, you want to take those 2 numbers and put them in there for x and make sure we get back what we're looking for here, right? So we put 5 in, we would get absolute value of 16 minus 3, so 16 minus 3, 13. If you put negative 11 in, you would get absolute value of negative 16, which is 16 minus 3, or 13. Okay? On the next 2 slides, there are lots of practice problems for you to try. I would suggest at this point pausing this video and then coming back when you've tried all 12 of those problems to check your answers. Okay, here are your answers to the first 6. You can pause this video for as long as you need to look at these. And here are your answers to the final 6. Again, you can pause your video as long as you need to check out these 6 problems. That'll do it for today's lesson on solving absolute value equations. Thanks as always for checking out my video today.